thanks for watching or listening to episode 35 of VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast. Whether you're watching us on VIP's YouTube channel or downloaded for a listen on iTunes or Spotify, if you can leave a review, we'd really appreciate it. And I'm Steve Lillis, and as usual, my co-host, John Evans. How are you, John?
Very good, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. And I've got a very special guest this week, a fella who's making a name for himself as a trainer, but he's been around quite a bit. He's maybe a bit older than what he looks, I think. So I've known him for too long, I think. A man who improves all the boxers that go to his stable. It's Robert Rimmer. And Robert, I could almost shout to your house down the road here. You're nearer than John. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it, mate. Yeah. Things are good. Life's good. The gym's booming, so I can't ask for much more, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, I was at your gym the other week, not the other week, about 2 months ago, April the 6th it was, and you was in, I think, Poland with Jack Massey, and there was 1,000,001 kids that are yours training in there. How many kids do you actually train?
Do you know, at the moment, I mean, see, with the lockdown situation, what had happened was, obviously the pros was all right, okay to train and stuff, and then I had a couple of the lads, the young amateur kids at different gyms. The dads were ringing me towards the end when the restrictions started to get a little bit more easier, saying, could they come along and just do a bit of a session? So I allowed them, and most of them just stuck to it, because they've not only improved boxing ability, but the weights and stuff like that have all come down, and amateur clubs are now starting to open back up again. So it's reaped dividends for them all. So in terms of pros for me, I've had Ryan Doyle come back now. I've got about six or seven. Busy.
And then you're getting quite a lot of the amateurs then coming in who, I dare say, who are looking at joining with you in a year, 2 years, whenever they're ready to turn over.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I do have an amateur club. I'm just trying to find them. Yeah, I do have an amateur affiliated as well. It was booming, obviously, to the COVID situation. So at the moment, I'm not busy with the pros, where I'd like to get involved a little bit more with the amateurs as well. But it's just finding a good, reliable coach that can be there and not be there once, twice a week. These kids need you there, all the time, a bit of consistency to get the best out of them. So as soon as I find someone that's going to fit the job, and then we'll be back up and running for the amateur side of stuff.
Now, I was going to say, Rob, you got a busy place, 6 or 7 pros, but I'd make no bones about it. My favourite fight, Ruthless Ryan's coming back for one last go, isn't he? Yeah.
Do you know, listen, I just spoke to him earlier on the phone. He's got a bit of a fresh start. He's just signed with Kevin Marie. And he kind of got that grit between his teeth. Ryan's a quality fighter, Steve, as you know. He brings an action-packed style. That's why the TV love him. He's there and he's going to be in a fight. And it's just a case of, look, what do you want to do? Sat down with him, where do you want to go? There's no point in talking about what's happened before. We're talking about now. It's a fresh start. And I think he's going to come back at super featherweight. And listen, there's an array of fights there to be made for Ryan. He's a name, former Commonwealth champion, English champion. But for me, the most important thing is, sometimes fights can hang on. Ryan's 27, he's still got a lot to give. There's not loads of miles on the clock. But he's in agreement with me. This combat fight is going to be over 6 or 8, but that's his world title fight. He's got to shine. He's got to really, put on a proper display so people sit up and take him serious, because that's the only way them big fights are going to come after this.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I certainly loved in the night he beat Reece Bellotti. I remember John ringing me that morning or messaging me and telling me to pile on.
Yeah, do you know what? That was a night that, sometimes in boxing, you create some memories that last a lifetime. And it was one thing, that was my first champion. And I said to you, John, didn't I, leading up to that fight, we was totally wrote off. But, sometimes you just get this feeling. Yeah. You just get this feeling, and that feeling, there was never no doubt in my mind that he was going to get beaten. I know that Reece Bellotti at the time was Matchroom's top prospect and big hitter and this, that, the other. But in my hearts of hearts and in my head, I knew Ryan was going to beat him. And, everybody lumped a right few quid on, and we all come out, with heavy pockets. It was you couldn't write. It was an unbelievable night.
And it was one to remember, that's for sure. I remember watching it on. He's one of those nights. Certain fights are not the biggest you'll ever see, but I'll never forget watching it on my TV. It was a midweek or Wednesday night, I think. Things you can remember. But anyway, look, we'll press on with the pod and how this works, Rob, because you're the first time on it tonight, Robert. We speak for 3 minutes for each round, and at the end of 3 minutes, what happens, John? He gets a bit angry here, Robert.
Yeah, the bell comes in, Rob.
He's an angry man. You see a side of Evans we don't know, mate.
The rules are rules.
Yeah, see what I mean? See, he's a bit of a stickler. You know.
I'll stick some don't. I'll stick the line.
Right, let's start with your first topic, John Evans.
Yeah, Shakur Stevenson. He stunk it out last weekend, didn't he? You know, I'm a big Shakur Stevenson fan, first of all, but he's one of this generation of fighters that want to be Floyd Mayweather. You know, they idolise him. They want their entire career to be on pay-per-view. They want the big money, and they're following that blueprint. Shakur might just be the most talented of that group, but he seems to be falling into a pretty dangerous pattern of safety first, you know, no risks, get the win and move on to the next one. And if you're going to become a star, if you're going to sell yourself, I think you've got to do a little bit more than that, especially someone as talented as Shakur. That was a penalty kick, weren't it? That's the type of title defense that every fighter dreams of. He could have looked $1 million there. He could have really sold himself to everyone watching, got a stunning knockout and moved himself up, but he didn't do it. And you even had people like Tim Bradley and Andrew Ward saying they were falling asleep watching it. So Shakur's next fight's he's got to be big, you know, he's got to put on a performance next time. But
yeah,
there you go.
I fully agree with you. And the fight, I mean, it's not the first time this has happened. You look at the last couple of fights, he's kind of been the same. It's been a snooze fest. You know, and for someone who's such as a talent as Shakur Stevenson, you know, it's a case of the other night, he's only so much and so long you'll be able to get away with doing that. But, you know, you've got people from top ranking around the world who are shouting him as a pound for pound. Now, that's a big shout for someone. You know, is he a top prospect or is he a pound for pound fighter? But you've got to have these top quality opposition in place. And like I said the other night, you bang on the money there, John. Like, you know, he had that opportunity there, you know, to grab the attention of the audience and say, oof, this kid's the real deal. And, you know, he played it safe. Exactly that.
Does it perhaps need someone who will make him work? Like, you know, a Jamil Herring fight should fire him up. An Oscar Valdez fight would be huge. Could be one of these guys who suddenly we see him, he gets in the ring one night in a fight where he has to work. Like the other night, we all knew, you know, most British fighters would have beat that guy comfortable the other night. Someone makes him work like a Herring where he has to do it and he really turns up. I still got a lot of belief in him. I really have.
Well, I think he's great. And when you're around him, he's a real character, Shakur. You know, he's full of life. I've seen him having full-blown wrestling matches with Terence Crawford on hotel floors the night before Terence is fighting. You know, them two are really tight. And Terence doesn't take any bullshit, does he? You know, Terence, I assume, has already been on the phone telling him to get rid of these guys. So he's got right people around him. He's got all the talent in the world. He's got a massive promoter behind him. It's all there for Shakur, but it's just so frustrating watching him because we're not seeing what he's capable of.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, listen, his two best wins have probably come across, you know, against, was it the guy Diaz and Gonzalez, you know, not huge names, but they're probably two of his best wins. But I think it's about time now, you know, that he does step up and he fights someone like Jamil Herring or Oscar Valdez. But for someone like him, I think when you find...
Round two, the Boxer boys. We spoke about this last week. It's now been made public. Boxer are taking over the Sky contract, Ben Shalom and John Wischusen. I think by not giving any details of their British output until August, they're buying themselves time to see what names they can sell. But what I was thinking of, how hard is it going to be for Ben Shalom? I don't really know Ben. I think I've spoke to him once. To become the salesman for Sky. I mean, you look at Eddie Hearn's been doing that for the last decade, however many years he's been doing it. And Eddie has sat there at press conference and he sold fights that aren't the greatest brilliantly. You know, he could sell Bibles to, you know, a Vegas prostitute who deals drugs. You know, he's got that, it's that, you know, that's a praise to him, that, you know, saying that he's got that master craft. You know, we've seen him this afternoon selling the DAZN product with his shows in the garden. I'm just wondering how will Sky have someone at the front who can do that job? Because I'm not sure Ben might not even fancy doing that. Who will be the salesman for Sky? How will they sell these fights properly?
Well, listen, you know, like you say, Eddie Hearn can sell sand to the Arabs, you know, and he's got a big job in his hand, you know, some big shoes to fill going into the role that Eddie had. Like you say, he's magnificent at his job. But again, he's one of them. He said he's got a big job in his hands, but I think he's just great for British boxing, what's going on at the moment. And the fact that there's still the opportunity and that slot with Sky, so it can only be great for all these up-and-coming boxers. And again, profile, Sky is a huge thing and a huge platform. So I really does, I hope he does fill his boots, and I hope he does do the job and do a proper job.
He's got to hit the ground running, hasn't he? The first time he's in front of cameras announcing a show, it's got to be good. He's got to look the part, he's got to talk the part, and he's got to put a good fight on, I think. I just hope if you don't concentrate on making it an event, like All Razzmatazz, and concentrating on the production, because at the end of the day, you can attract all the people you want, but at the end of the day, at some point, we're going to watch 2 4-round cruiserweights banging it out, aren't they? You can't dress that up. So the top of the bill, there's got to be good fights, and I think Ben's got to really, pull his pants up straight away and hit the ground running here.
Yeah, I mean, it's that selling. That first press conference to the media is so vital that he looks the part, talks the part, because most of them guys are never going to see him at all. I've never seen him before. Most of the journalists who cover these Sky fights, so he's got to impress them. So with people who've had a relationship with, say, Hennessy, Warren, and Hearn for many years, who don't know him, and people underestimate how important that them first. Over to you, Rob. Your first one. You want to talk about promoters and their effect on fighters?
Yeah, listen, promoters and egos. And I think a lot of people will be in agreement with you, in agreement with me here. You've got a lot of young fighters, national champions, ABA champions, kids who have been coming up the GB squad and stuff like that. And and I believe a lot of them, I won't mention names, some big promoters. And I think where the ego part comes in, I think you've got promoters now fighting to sign kids. And these kids are coming with big ambitions, that they're going to be fighting on these big platforms like Sky, BT, etc. And I see, from what I see, and think what everybody else sees at the moment, you've got these promoters that have a pool of fighters. You're promised, maybe 4 fights a year, 5 fights a year, whatever it may be. That's your fights, active, and revenue. And the big thing is where the egos get in place. They're too well bent on signing all these kids. They might have a syndicate of around 80 fighters, but listen, they know before they've signed them fighters that they've only got spaces for 40. So the contracts are not worth the paper they're written on. It's all about the promoter and not the fighter. And, I feel something has to be done around it because they're killing fighters. And activity is key, as you've seen with Josh Warrington, Yeah. But like I said, you're turning over these ambitions, the dreams sold to you, on these big shows. And the reality is, it doesn't work that way. The carrot gets dangled, before you know it, it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months before you thought, oh, no, you're going to be going again. I just think, that's a big standpoint in boxing at the moment where, these promoters, they're leaving a big ripple effect across the board for lads coming through. And not just lads coming through, championship level fighters. It's happening across the board.
Oh, yeah, I'd agree, Rob. You get, I suppose the big risk is young kids, 18, 19, turning over, fighting 3 times in a year. Really, we should be fighting, if we're advanced kids, we should be fighting 8, 9, 10. If that little bit of fire goes out and someone has a big run, they just get overshadowed, they're fighting on undercards forever, the progress just halts, doesn't it? Well, it's happening more and more often.
And they're sold a dream, these guys, aren't they? That's what they're sold. They're sold that dream. But, also, what do you think it is, Rob, that blows his kid away to sign these things so quickly and maybe not go everywhere to see what's about? Is it because they just see the first figure that's ever been mentioned to them in their life?
I think a lot of young fighters get blown away by profile, and you've got the two leading horses in the race, from Frank Warren and Matchroom, and straight away you're blinded by the lights and the profile, and you want to go, signing with these big dogs. But again, it's not always as rosy as it seems. It's a long hard road to get to the top, and like I said, activity is key. But going back to the promoters who are eager to sign these kids, and you see it time and time again. You might see them fight once, and you think, oh, I've not seen him fight for 12 months. And the thing is, within these organisations.
Come back to that one later if you want, Rob.
Yeah, we'll go back to that.
The next one is, because you're on, Robin, and this struck home with me, Charlie Schofield getting an English title. I messaged you about it. There's a lot of focus these days on getting people to world titles. And just a sec, the dog's playing with a bell there. But I don't think a lot of fans realise how difficult it is to win any kind of title. For a professional boxer to win a title, such a small percentage do it. And to do it with a fighter who's not got a deep amateur background, he's not had it all his own way, you know, he's not a hyped guy. I think it makes it all the more impressive, really, especially a guy like Charlie who had his difficulties. Like, I saw Charlie at Oldham Sports Centre get hurt a couple of times, and I wouldn't have thought he would have won a title. And you're probably at the level now, Rob, where fighters are looking at you, established title level fighters are looking at you thinking, oh, will I give Rob Rimmer a chance? And the lessons you've learned with people like Charlie and other kids in your stable you've brought up from nothing, they're going to stand you instead for the rest of your career, aren't you? And I was saying, well done there, getting Charlie Schofield an English title. I think it's a good achievement.
You know what?
Go on, John, sorry.
I'll just be quick. So I want to hear you on this, obviously. You know what? When I said at the start that you improve fighters, when I introduced you, it was Charlie that I was referring to. I'll be honest, I've seen Charlie box a couple times on the Steve shows, and no disrespect to him at all. I'm with John. I didn't think he'd win a title, and he almost weren't far from stinking a place out, I thought, you know. But the improvement, that's why I said you improve fighters. So yeah, let's listen from you, and well done to you, and well done to Charlie, by the way, more than anything.
Thanks very much. You know, listen, like I said, it's a work in progress, and you know, we're learning all the time. But Charlie's probably the one. Like I said, no disrespect to him, you probably look at off his previous performances, you know, how far is he going to get? Something now central area, but to get an English title and to be out the ring for 2 years and to take an opponent in which he got beat, you know, it's credit to himself. But listen, what that kid lacks in talent, he makes up in hard work. And what we've been working on is using them big long levers and you know, using his assets, keeping it simple, and you know, the self-belief, building on that confidence. And that's shown in that fight. He come out like a different fighter. He's shown he could have spite. You know, he's shown he had a lovely jab, great attributes, and he's been able to, you know, use them attributes to the best of his ability. A bit like a Lawrence Okoli situation in his last fight. You know, don't have to complicate things. But you know, listen, so made up for him, and you know, I think he'll just be improving, be better and better each time.
Yeah, you know what you said there about he doesn't lack anything. What he gives you in training, and he obviously that day I was at your gym filming for Fight Zone when you was in Poland. There was chaos in there that day. It was all boxers being filmed and everything, and he was just getting on, ignoring everybody. Did he spar? You know, was looked after. Then was just getting on doing his training and he's stretching himself. There could have been one person or 1,000. Round 5. I tell you what, John, it's Rosie in the Garden. Eddie Hearn announced his garden shows today, and it's something you touched on about Sky would have to hit the ground running. I just think Eddie's hit the ground running with these fights, certainly at the top of the bill that he's announced for August. Yeah, I'm just looking at the list here, for July 31st onwards. You know, Conor Benn, Adrian Granados, Kid Galahad, Jazza Dickens, you know, it's a world title fight. I don't think it'd be a thriller because, you know, we know what kids like. And Buatsi Bolotniks, which it could be, you know, which two, you know, world-class light heavyweights. They've hit the ground running. It's almost like when Frank Warren launched Box Nation in 2011, he launched it with the fight of the year, the Scottish kid against Ryan Walsh.
Appleby.
Appleby, yeah. Paul Appleby against Ryan Walsh. Followed that with Bellew against Cleverly One and hit the ground running. And I think Eddie's done this with Fight Camp and DAZN. I really do. I just wondered any fights, if you looked at that list, Rob, that you really fancy as crackers.
Do you know what I think? The Conor Benn fight.
Really?
I think you know that's. I mean, you look at his opponent. Yeah, he's got some good names on his record. You know, he's lost to top kids, Daddy Garcia, Broner, Sean Porter. You know, so I think that's a real test for him. You know, this is a kid who was raw. You know, started off and he's improved so much. You know, he was raw, nothing less. But now you look at his performances and he's just bouncing full of confidence. But I think that's a good test, good matchmaking and a good test. But there's a few fights on that card. Billam Smith and McCarthy, I'm looking forward to. That's one that I'm going to be looking at closely, obviously, because I have John Massey in my stable. But again, Buatsi, I think Buatsi's in a fight as well. You know, Bolotniks, he's coming off good wins. Jose Burton, Ward. So yeah, there's some great matches on there. And like I said, he's not playing games at the end. He was hit the ground running.
I like Fowler against Garcia. You know what? Fowler took a bit of time to grow on me, but the last 18 months he really has. I think moving down to Shane McGuigan, taking himself out his comfort zone, I think he's improved all round. You know, he's a calmer guy. I think his style's improved. He's been brutal, hasn't he, in a couple of recent fights. I think that's a real good fight. And if Fowler's struggling, he's going to go to war as well. I don't think you'll ever see Fowler in a boring fight, so I'm looking forward to that one.
I think we should just go off topic. What we're saying to you, Robert, about improving fighters. Shane McGuigan done that. He done that with Fowler. And, you know, Conor Benn, you mentioned there, I think the matchmaking with him has been absolutely fantastic. And again, like Tony Schofield to a certain extent, when Conor made his debut, I didn't even have him out for a Southern Area title, let alone fighting.
Last one, Rob.
Final round, Steve Gray on Saturday, Rob.
Yeah, listen, very controversial decision. I think a lot of people have mixed views on it, but I'm going to give my opinion from me as a trainer. You know, you could see Ritson was in a fight. Ponce was on him from round one. You know, he targeted the body. It was like chopping the tree. It was just, when was the tree going to fall? You could see he was wincing, he was hurting, and Ritson's as tough as they come. But, you know, the fight went on, the towel come in, and he wasn't really hurt at that time. But for me, when the towel come in, and Steve Gray, you look at the mannerisms of Ritson, he turned away. He didn't want to continue to fight. Now, his trainer, he's not just his trainer, it's his dad. If he was a trainer, get to know your fighter inside out, you know, and these things that we would see that a referee wouldn't know, these signs, we pick up for them signs. And I think when you step up in levels at that level, you need to pick up for them signs because, listen, they prove pivotal. But, and it showed the corner for me was right, because straight after it, after he threw it out, what happened? The tree fell. He got it with a body shot and it was over. So, I mean, what's your opinions on it? What would you think?
You know what? I made a note here, and Robert, I just made some notes on it. The one I said, Steve Gray on Saturday, Robert's topic, good official, but fighter safety come first. And when the towel come in, the resigned look on Lewisritzen's face said it all. I think to stop this controversy, I know I'm told by a few people who have licenses, and you may know this, Robert, that referees don't like towels coming in. They feel they're being a little bit overruled. I don't know. I've been told that. I've never spoken to referees about it, but I just think fighter safety comes first, and the board should bring in a rule that if a corner throws a towel in and stop it, the referee has to stop it. The fighter knows the knows the fighter first, and whether that's his father or not, he would have known Lewisritzen over the years, that trainer, just like you would any fighter. I don't know what your take, John.
Yeah, I listened to Bunsey and Costello's podcast today, and they were talking about this, and I don't think there's anything new to add from what they said, really. I know the referee doesn't have to accept it, but I think that was a clear case where he should have done. You know, yeah. Lewis at 140 hasn't been a knockout puncher, has he?
No.
At 135, he beat Scott Cardle, who took it late and fought like a lunatic. He beat Joe Murray, who people around here know took it late and didn't really have much of a shot. And he looked like a real devastating puncher, but up at 140, he's not been getting it done, has he? So Lewis really had no way back into that. And when his dad's telling him that's the end of a fight, I think it should have been called to a halt there and then.
And you know what? It was good to Steve Gray, the video that Matchroom released, him going into the dressing room afterwards. But the fact Steve said he looked okay to me, you know, I know there were body shots, but he'd been in distress for a couple rounds. So I'm surprised that Steve, was still thinking that. But going a little bit off topic again now, just if you saw, I think it was a Facebook post or an Instagram post from Lewisritzen last night, where he was really, really honest, full of respect for him. And he just said, what he's learned, recently, maybe the last couple of fights is, there's still fights for him out there, but not at that level.
Yeah, fair play to him. At least he's being honest with himself, and that's all you can be. Because that Ponce, listen, from round one, you could see he was coming with bad intentions. When he was landing, you could see he was wincing, he was hurting. And it was, like I said, anything that he was throwing back, Ritson didn't really seem to have an effect. And he was just going one-sided.
Yeah. So Lewis didn't seem to try anything different. There was a lot of rounds where, well, you can still win the fight, but you've got to get on. You've got to do something now. And he just wasn't doing it. It was almost as if he couldn't go through those gears to do that, which most probably, he's referring to in that statement last night.
Yeah, it's the same with Vasquez, wasn't it? And Patera, when maybe that's the difference. You'll know way better than me, Rob, when you realise you've got a real championship level fighter, who've got that ability to switch in a fight. You know, they can change tactics. They can completely change tack if something's not working. Maybe I like Lewis, a very honest lad, and it's exciting to watch. But maybe that's what's just going to hold Lewis back. He just lacking that ability to just change.
Well, that's why they say there's levels in boxing, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, so you know, when you step up, you've got to be able to have that ability to change gear. And plan A is not working, have plan B. Plan B is not there, have plan C, and be able to go through the gears and change the fight. But again, you know, it was kind of just one-sided. It was just there was nothing really happening. I think that's why it was a great decision from the corner before, you know, taking any more punishment. Because he was going either, he was getting stopped to the body, but then he was protecting his body that much that he was leaving the jaw wide open. So it was only a matter of time.
Yeah, look, you know what? There's still good fights out there for Lewis. I think it was Lee Eaton, I think you know really well, Robert, was saying last night a good fight would be him against Tyrone McKenna. Now, what a tear-up that would be between those two, wouldn't it? That would be a fight. Then about a boxing fight, what a cobbles fight that would be.
Say lock them both in a phone box. There's none of them.
You'd pay to go and watch that, wouldn't you? So there's still great fights out there for Lewis. And you know what? I wonder what Steve Gray thinks 3-4 days on now after his decision. Because at the end of the day, Steve still had to make that split-second decision the other night to throw that. But I was more a bit perturbed by what he said in the dressing room that you looked okay.
I mean, listen, Steve Gray's a top referee.
Yeah, he is,
He's a top referee. And I think, at that highest level, it's judgment. He's only human at the end of the day. And, whether he was giving at that level, we're not talking about an 8-round, 10-round fight. This is an eliminator for a world title. So maybe he was just giving Lewis, the benefit of the doubt and just seeing. But, in hindsight, he could have gone either way. But, I think it happened a few years ago. You probably remember, is it Katsidis? And Katsidis ended up getting knocked out.
No, he got knocked down. He got a flash knockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it a flash?
Flash knockdown, then he come back and battered Earl again, wasn't it? He got literally dropped the next punch after the towel come in. But then he got straight back up and, great, people going about that. But he still took a lot of punishment, well, not a lot. He took punishment he didn't need to take afterwards, Graham Earl.
Yeah. That's it. So, for me, going back to the topic there, it's just the decision was right from the corner.
You're right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I always make the corner right. Let them argue about it afterwards. But if the trainer wants to stop the fight, let him. He's the person who knows that fighter and should care for that fighter's health and safety, or safety and health in that order, more than anything else.
Definitely.
All right then, fellas. I think we've overrun there. Robert, thanks for coming on tonight. You can come back and join us in another month or two, I hope.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Listen, thanks for having me on. I love doing this. Anytime you can jump on, mate. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, see, we knew you were a bit of a star on Fight Zone last week. John told me, then a couple other people mentioned your name. So you know that Robert Rimmer, don't you? I said, what's he done to me? I said, no. He said, no, he was good talking boxing with Kevin the other week.
Yeah, no, listen, it was a little opportunity, mate. I loved it, absolutely loved it. I mean, Alex Stebbin, like I said to you today, Steve, what a guy. He puts you at ease. But that's something that I really liked, enjoy talking about the fights, analysing the fights and stuff like that. So, yeah, I was always worried how you can come across mumbling or you repeat yourself. But no, it was good, mate. I enjoyed it.
Alex Steedman, the man who looks like a geography teacher, but parties like a rock star, mate. He parties, believe me.
I went to New York with Alex for a week to watch Golovkin and Chocolatito, and had a good few nights out around Manhattan with Alex. Yeah.
Tell you what,
never judge a book by his cover.
No, never. He's the king of Ibiza. I don't know how old he is. Every October he goes to Ibiza for a week with his missus and his mates. And they go to the end of the house party season, all the phone parties, giving it loads.
Unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. One week you're commentating on the horse, like 2 wheels apart on the horse race, and then you're in a beef.
Yeah. Fellas, thanks very much for tonight. Cheers, John. Cheers, Robert. Cheers everyone else.
Thanks very much.
Nice one, lads.
For all boxing info, news, and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.